Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Judy. I hope everyone can hear me. I just wanted to share with you that actually today is my debut with the Alzheimer's Association. I have been preparing for this moment for the past month or so. And just wanted to start by saying thank you for Nicolette to making this possible. She's doing a great job at onboarding me into the association and preparing me for this moment. Again, my name is Ronald Perez, and just to tell you a bit about myself, I'm not gonna mention a lot, but I figured you might want to know who's doing the presentation. So I'm a scientist by training. I did my PhD at Rutgers University, and then essentially I was doing a training in what's called pharmacology, which is a little different from pharmacy. Essentially, my brother is a pharmacist, and I essentially decided to pursue the route of becoming a scientist, just because I was so attracted to understanding the biological space. Now, after that, I spent about 8 years into what's called medical devices and the consulting pharmaceutical industry. And essentially now I'm volunteering just because I've had personal experience with Alzheimer's through a family member. And so, as somebody who's new to this type of disease, you're not really, I guess, ready to handle, to properly provide the best optimal care to a patient when you yourself don't know much about it. So, and then I guess also identification of the resources, it's something that you immediately don't think about. And this is pretty much, why I wanted to become more involved, certainly as this particular disease becomes more prominent. And so yes, so if you have any questions about my background, feel free to point it in the chat. Nicolette will gather that information. So essentially, I think Judy mentioned that this is a 3-part series. I'm going to be giving you the first part, which should roughly be about 40 or so minutes, depending on the interaction that happens. I think so. I hope you definitely like this. This very insightful visual presentation. I hope to make it as interactive as possible. And so essentially, this particular, I guess the particular objective, or I guess, is to provide you with the knowledge, the tools, and the strategies of how to cope with the diagnosis of dementia, right? So dementia is kind of like the umbrella term for people who suffer from Alzheimer's and a whole bunch of other neurological related diseases, which Alzheimer's is one of them. And so later during this presentation, we're gonna talk about the different types of neurological diseases, which have a presentation as one of them being Alzheimer's. And essentially the main goal, oops, I skipped. So the main goal is just to provide those who are in the process of taking care of a loved one or somebody in the family who you're taking care of, to provide you with as much information as possible, so you're able and ready to to meet those challenges, to essentially I guess from a resource as the Alzheimer's Association, as a source where you can go and not only access this presentation, but also a number of other resources that you can find on the website, or by calling a 1-800 number for the Alzheimer's Association. So, this is kind of like your first guide, as a caretaker. And yes, I just wanted to mention, as was said earlier, if you would like to make any comments, please post them on the chat, or if it's on the slide that I'll be talking about, feel free to just I guess raise your hand or unmute yourself. And or if you have any other questions, please mention them on the chat, and then Nicolette will review them towards the end. And if for some reason my voice gets sounds like it's a little drawn out, just let me know, and I'll be happy to mention that again as well. All right. So as I mentioned, so dementia is kind of like a general group of brain disorders. It's not specifically when somebody says, oh, this person has dementia, it doesn't mean that they're going crazy, right? What it means, it's just an umbrella term from a number of other symptoms that are qualified under dementia. One of them, which is the most popular that people think about, is thinking, right? Thinking, it's one of these side effects of dementia, but as well as you have memory loss, also judgment type of, I guess, decision making, and also it affects the personality, right? Some of the personality behavior as well. Now, the types of dementia, and this is where kind of like you're getting a bit granular into the specific type of dementia that somebody, when you go to your primary care provider or a specialist, that's when they'll make the diagnosis, and they'll kind of put these into buckets depending on the presentation of that patient's behavior. For some of them, it could be Alzheimer's disease. For some of them, it could be Parkinson's disease, or other type of dementia that you see in bullet points here. So, and this is something that only your primary care provider or specialist can probably make this diagnosis. Nicolette, just wanted to mention, or feel free to jump in case I need to perhaps highlight some of these things, or if you would like to me to provide more information, because I may have, I may not be mentioning everything, and I think it would be beneficial for everybody in the audience to perhaps provide more input in case you feel like you need to.
Yeah, so I think as Ronald said, that dementia is an umbrella term, and oftentimes people are using the word Alzheimer's and dementia interchangeably, because Alzheimer's is the most common type. But as you can see on the screen that Ronald has up, that there's many other types as well, and it could be how the person acquired the type of dementia or the symptoms that they're having. But important to note that they're actually not the same thing, and there's many other types that someone could need assistance or help. And really important, as Ronald said, going to that doctor and making sure you're getting that proper diagnosis, so that way you're getting treated correctly.
Great, thank you, Nicolette, for providing that extra added information. All right, so understanding disease, this disease. So we know that Alzheimer's causes problems with memory, thinking, behavior. It is not necessarily, a normal part of aging. But definitely the symptoms can vary. I mean, you can have individuals who perhaps the most prominent representation of it is memory loss, but for others could be behavioral as well. And I think it's something that essentially, if it's memory loss, it's something that it's not, it's kind of like losing some of this long-term memory, as opposed to having problems with short-term memory, right? That would be one of the, just something that I remember from when I was going through the course of, doing this presentation here. Right. So just briefly to mention here, the FDA has approved treatments, right? And so obviously once you're getting diagnosed with a specific type of dementia, you often thinking, okay, well, can the person I'm taking care of, can they take a medication? Well, yes, they can take medication, but usually the medications that have been up until recently being available have only been available to not, I guess, to only treat the side effects. It's not actually treating the disease. It's not like cure, for example. So up at the top, you have a list of 5 medications that essentially they're only meant there to kind of treat the side effects. Whereas now that scientists or science overall and the medical research community is further understanding the wonders of the brain, essentially they're making a significant progress in actually coming up with medications that can perhaps be a cure in the long term, right? Right now, a lot of these medications, or the medication here that you see, its generic name is called aducanumab. That's the generic name. The commercial name, it's Aduhelm. And so this particular medication, I think, was just approved this year, which it's kind of like a breakthrough in a way, because patients have been waiting a long time for something to be a cure, right? In this case, this medication is not, it doesn't address a cure for everybody. According to some of the scientific data that has been reviewed by the FDA, essentially this has proved to help some patients, only as it's a segment of patients, right? Whereas in other cases it has not helped those who have taken the medication. And so just wanted to let you know that there is progress, and there are a number of other research institutions, I guess pharmaceutical companies that are essentially very interested in this space because of the greater number of patients who are living with this disease. And this particular medication that has recently been approved, it's only meant for those with an early type of Alzheimer's disease. So it's not meant for those who are in advanced stages or middle stages of the disease. But in any case, this is something as a provider to your loved one, you certainly want to make sure that you are aware of these options. And certainly your healthcare provider, your physician would be the most the most indicated person that you should reach out to. All right, so we talked about early stage symptoms, right? These are kind of like the I guess the symptoms that you start noticing as a provider to your loved one, right? Memory changes in executing function, concentration changes, so difficulty with that, difficulty with reasoning and abstract thinking, difficulty with language and ability to communicate, and impaired judgment. Sometimes you start noticing changes in time or place, where your loved one may be confused about where they are at that exact time. There's also difficulty in visual spatial reactions. Actually, Nicolette, would you, if you don't mind, would you provide an example of that one?
Yeah, so when we talk about visual and spatial relationships, the vision is changing as we're aging, and typical aging would be developed astigmatism or cataracts. I need glasses for distance or for reading, but something a little more is vision might be affected with depth perception. So you see someone and they don't want to get in the bathtub because they can't quite see the bottom, or the dark mat outside their house, they're kind of walking around it because it looks like a dark hole. It may be that they're having trouble with their peripheral vision, so the vision alongside of our face. So I can kind of see that car next to me in the corner of my eye, or that person coming up and tapping me on the shoulder. But someone that is going through the early stages of dementia may have trouble with that peripheral vision. So they may start hitting mailboxes on the side of the road, or they may be surprised or startled when someone comes up to them. They may have trouble with color contrast. So you see someone eating and they're eating mashed potatoes on a white plate and they're having trouble distinguishing where one ends and one begins. So a little bit of abnormal changes in the vision versus something that is just typical aging could be affecting someone with Alzheimer's or dementia.
Nicolette, it seemed like we lost a bit of what you were saying.
So I'm not sure where I left
I think
off, but
perhaps for the last 20 seconds, I think, because I thought you had ended, but it abruptly ended on my end, so I thought you had stopped talking.
so I was just sharing that it's something a little bit more than those typical age-related changes that maybe we see normally because someone's vision is changing as we're aging. It's something a little more concerning, and definitely something, again, if you are having trouble, I would recommend seeing a doctor. I also am happy to address, in the chat, there was a question about behavior changes. And when we talk about behavioral changes, we're talking more about repetition or pacing, someone who's sundowning, so they're showing more behaviors. They're up at night and they're more active than during the day. It could be someone that has a little more aggression or is a little more apprehensive. So definitely those are very common, and something that I would recommend talking to your doctor if you're noticing some behavioral changes and also some difficulty with thought, perception, some of these areas on the screen. I would definitely recommend talking to your doctor a little bit more.
Okay, thank you for that, Nicolette. All right, next one, I'm going to be showing a video clip of Alan. And Alan has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease.
We live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Is that better?
Now,
Perfect.
from the West Coast. My wife and I were both employed by the airlines, Pacific Southwest Airlines, and then U.S. Air. And we moved out to Pittsburgh in '93. And as far as the diagnosis goes, I had been a pilot for 30 years for U.S. Airways, and was going through an international training course to fly internationally. And I made a couple of crossings of the Atlantic, and was having some problems. Just calculating simple things like fuel burns. Not to get technical, but you know, you launch across the ocean, you really need to know your fuel situation, and then you have checkpoints that predicated fuel burns all the way across, and every so many degrees of latitude, you add it up and make sure that your burn is at or better than what you need to keep going. It's simple math, that just adding and subtracting, and I was having trouble getting the right answers. I was making mistakes, general math, and having some memory problems. There's a lot of chatter on the radio, and a lot of it comes in really fast. And we used to joke around that you could read a newspaper, tell a joke, and not miss a radio call, you know, because you could multitask. And I wasn't having problems reading back clearances, and one thing led to another, and I went back for a check ride and failed the check ride.
All right. So that was Alan sharing his experience. So here I'm going to read words from a caretaker, right? It says success means that you have found a way to be happy within the confines of this disease. So to me, what this means is that, sorry about that. So to me, what this means is certainly, and this is again from a personal experience, that, you have to adapt, right? You have to find a way to adapt to the new reality. And in this case for Alan, certainly he recognized the symptoms, but I guess from a caretaker perspective, this is something where we have to learn to live and move beyond this, and how to, keep continue to have that quality of life despite these, the diagnosis. So what this means here is certainly accepting the diagnosis, developing your care team. So certainly identifying who can that care team be. Usually it's it's a loved one, family who's near you. And next one here is the beginning, to make plans for the future, whether those means financial, legal, future care, safety, and essentially living each day to the fullest. Here is, what does this mean? Accepting the future plans will change, right? So certainly, once you face yourself with the fact that your thinking is changing, you're recognizing some setbacks, from that perspective, it's not easy to recognize, to actually adapt immediately, but this is something that will have to be planned with a caretaker, right? So the sooner that's done, the better. Certainly the next one is accept your feelings. This may come with perhaps signs of depression, just because you're used to doing so many things, and essentially once you're faced with the fact that you're no longer functioning up to 100% of what you used to, and that's a bit of uncomfortable feeling. And also give yourself time, right? I mentioned time about if you're looking for a quick resolution, that's certainly something that may not happen. And that's something that as a caretaker, you have to understand that that person, in this case, Alan, you have to understand that that's something new for this person, and kind of gives you a sense of how to be compassionate, how to understand, and give that person the time to express their feelings. So here we're going to talk about, or I'm going to play this clip from Kitty's house, and let's find out what words she has. All right.
When Bill and I went to the doctors, we went to several doctors. We had doctors that got angry because he missed appointments, or that I wasn't there, and I didn't even realize I was supposed to be there. I know that now. I've read several good books. I know that I should have been with him the whole time. When we finally found a doctor through the Alzheimer's Association and went to see the doctor, when he gave us the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, he also challenged us that day. He said, this is what you need to do. Not die from Alzheimer's. You need to do three things. Get an attorney and get all of your paperwork together. Get involved and volunteer for clinical trials, for tests, for whatever you can to make a difference. And get a support group. And it was the best advice we'd been given, and it was the most positive that we had been given. And it was the first time we thought that we could live with the disease rather than just die from it.
There you go. So she mentioned an attorney, clinical trials, and a support team. So those are three things that her doctor mentioned.
And I wanted to add, so we have some resources. I know we can mention more of them at the end, is that if you are looking for an attorney, if you're looking for support groups and what have you, we have a community resource finder that I can put in the chat and our helpline number. And they can be very helpful at finding resources like that. Even we're working with the Ocean County Library System, as wonderful as a partner Judy and the libraries have been, to build early stage groups. And they are groups that will come to the locations that are able to host them. And it's for that care partner and their loved one that's going through the journey. And it will be an opportunity for them to share and engage in activities and really connect with others that are going through the journey as well.
Thank you, Nicolette, yes, for those insights. So this particular slide is just a representation in a nice visual way, depicting right at the top center here, the person with Alzheimer's disease and a care partner. Then after that would be an extension of the healthcare community. And then the further extension of that would be family and friends and work. And very important also at the end, the community resources, right? Just because you will find that certainly because of these diseases, not just Alzheimer's, but the other dementia types, that in fact there's a number of groups out there within each one of our communities that has very valuable information for the community. So, all right, next one is you and the person with dementia. So you work as a unit to monitor the shifts and in functioning. Prepare your appointments by choosing times together, discussing the monitored changes, noting questions and concerns, and reviewing the care plans as a team. Nicolette, is there a particular bullet point in here that you would like to highlight or help me highlight?
I think what's really important is that, working together with your care partner, we say care partner in an early stage because we may not be caregiving for someone, but as the last clip was showing, going to that appointment together, sharing the journey together, really important, noticing those changes. So we may not notice those cognitive changes that are a little abnormal. So meeting that person where they're at and sharing, it looks like something you're having trouble with, let's go to the doctor and see how we can help you in that area. So not everyone maybe necessarily wants to hear about Alzheimer's dementia. They're concerned, they're fearful. But if you're having trouble with something that you've always done, there's some kind of cognitive change, really an important reason to go to a doctor and get that checked out and help, get someone help as much as they can get.
Great, perfect. All right, thank you for that. So next one, I'm going to play a clip of John, I believe it is here. Let's see.
I guess the biggest challenge for me is just to take it a day at a time and to begin to learn to talk so that Marianne is not intimidated. To not say, isn't it going to be fun where we're going over the weekend, but to simply tell her, isn't it going to be fun when we go to Mary's house for dinner on Saturday night? And I think all of our family has learned to talk in those ways. And I think to learn strategies is the big important thing. As I talk to families on my own when I'm with Marianne, and I get a lot of the questions, even more so sometimes than Marianne does, is to try to help people to understand, if you're just getting into this, to learn to talk face to face. I think very often, and especially in long time marriages, people, and I haven't really thought this through completely, but I think people talk across the room. And we talk in a loud voice when we're talking across the room, but talking in a loud voice is very intimidating for the principal person. As a companion, I think I've learned to come together, to come closer to both, I think, physically and as we talk about something, to try to get a lot more into the conversation, into the moment that Marianne is interested in at that particular point, rather than be about exactly what I'm doing at the moment, but try to be at her level of interest. And if it's a frustrating moment, to try to comment on it. As you may suspect, if two people are frustrated, it doesn't help at all. If I can be the less frustrated one, I think it seems to help. Some might frustrate Marianne if I'm not at her level of frustration, but I try to be the calming one.
Certainly. So John is talking about that change in the way he communicates with his wife. Very important. So that's something that he learned how to adapt, essentially. Here, so the title says, "You and the person with dementia. Optimize the person's sense of well-being through physical exercise, mental stimulation, and social interaction," right? This case, examples of physical exercise, something could be walking, gardening. Examples of mental stimulation, certainly playing puzzles, reading games, discussing issues of interest that the person likes. So certainly, keeping that engagement is very important, as we've seen. And definitely don't become isolated. Try to engage with family and friends in the community as much as possible. In this case, care partner teams are more successful at navigating healthcare systems. That is true. Healthcare systems can be scary at times, just because identifying the right source of information, the right provider, navigating a lot of the cost of care as well. That's something I have personally had some experience with that as well. So really navigating the system is very important, and the person who is diagnosed certainly could use a lot of help in this case. So I guess the care partner in this case would be ideally keeping a record of changes and questions. Ideally, if these could be written down before the appointments, so this way nothing is forgotten once the date of the appointment comes, and all of the questions that you wanted to ask, you have documented those beforehand. And ideally, as a care partner, you would like to be present at any in the room with the physician while the conversation is taking place, to make sure nothing is missed. Next one, I'm going to play a clip about Trish and her experience.
I remember with Bob's mother, we were first married. She had some problems. She couldn't keep jobs. And she would, start to repeat herself. We ended up in the later stages, taking care of her. If Bob's father, for instance, he was had to work on a day that was a holiday, for instance, and had nowhere to take her, we would watch her. And many nights Bob would go over there and be with her if his father was out of town. So we were somewhat familiar. But at that time, nobody knew what was wrong with Janet. And they said it was senility, and it wasn't. They never mentioned the Alzheimer's word. Bob's father was an excellent caregiver, but he survived this ordeal by being in denial. And I'll never forget, Bob's aunt told us a story about how she took Janet to a gynecologist, and Janet couldn't write a check. So Nancy wrote the check for her and had Janet sign it. And afterwards, she was puzzled and went up to the doctor and said, "What's wrong with Janet?" And he looked at her, matter of fact, "She's got Alzheimer's." So when Nancy went home to tell Bob's dad that Janet had Alzheimer's, he blew up. And he said, "She does not have Alzheimer's." So we never really mentioned the word Alzheimer's. We just took care of Janet and just pretended that nothing was wrong. And I guess looking back, I felt like Janet never really had anybody that she could say, "What's wrong with me?" Because nobody ever told Janet. So I guess because of it, I've gone the opposite end, and I feel like I need to be with Bob. I need to be with him and talk to him about this and be open with our children and not try to hide it.
Very personal, insightful experience from Trish or her friend Janet. All right. So the care partners' roles are, well, there's multiple roles: to encourage the person, right? Be a companion, supporter, planner, money manager, and advocate for this person. And now the question is to anyone else in the audience, or Judy, or Nicolette, is there anyone, any other bullet point that you can add to this? If there's none, then that's fine.
I would just say being there is really important for the person. And as will be discussed further in this presentation, whether it's today or subsequently, I believe the next session is Wednesday. Really, as a care partner, caring for yourself is so important. Allowing that time to go for a walk and just have those moments where it's okay to need a break and go to your own doctor's appointments and care for yourself, because if we're not caring for ourselves, it really backs up and we get overwhelmed and burned out, and we're not giving our loved one the best care. So I would really encourage the care partner to also not only think about these multiple roles that they're becoming involved in, and the dynamics may be changing, but also to sometimes think about yourself and think about your needs and maintain that level of care as well.
Very nice, Nicolette. I appreciate the input. All right. Now, a few tips for coping with symptoms. Definitely helping the person with dementia is stay independent, and that's a big one. I think from a personal experience, I see it, or I saw it with my loved one, where the fact that they this person was not able to pretty much go out, by themselves, to just go to the store, for example, run a few errands. So someone had to be there with this person. That was something that they were not used to, right? So that's like taking away independence from somebody. It's not very easy, or it's not welcome, right? But this is something that it's hard to let that person know that we're doing this for your own well-being. Certainly, another thing here would be helping the person. For example, if they're creating a shopping list, for example, like you see here, helping the person write down some of the items that you would need for shopping list, or perhaps you would create, along with this person, would create them together. Staying organized is certainly very important, right, to help minimize some of these, I guess, side effects of coping with this disease. And as it says here, at the very last bullet point, assist without offending, right? You want to be conscious about that what you're doing is not offending this person. All right. Here, next one, it's a few tips from Carol on staying active during Alzheimer's.
Well, he wasn't able to work. He lost the one job. He did try working again, but then just couldn't seem to manage that. It was hard to focus. So that was a big blow for him because he loved working. It's really important. So we had to find other things to do. I had already retired, but I worked part-time. So we've sort of enrolled him in he enrolled himself in some classes, part of George Mason called OLLI for geezer people. they're really very good college classes. So he goes to classes, and then he developed his own photography business, started getting interested in photography. He's always taken a million pictures. A lot of his shots on trips turned out really well. So we started making cards out of them and giving them to friends. And in Great Falls, where we live, there's this artist community, which he joined. They have coffee every Thursday. And they have exhibits right now. Some of his work is being exhibited at a veterinary clinic. His pictures of horse and birds. And so we're taking more pictures and doing more things. And he's going to sell some things at craft fairs. He does a good job. So being involved in the arts, getting active, we now volunteer for Meals on Wheels. We volunteer for Food for Others. We're active in the church. He goes to a breakfast every Tuesday for the men in the church. So he's found a way to be active in other ways. And that's really important. We exercise a lot. I like to travel, get new mental stimulation. So that's pretty much, but our lives have changed a lot because of that, because he did enjoy working and couldn't do that. So we had to find a workaround.
Awesome. That's a great example by Carol. So volunteering and photography, could be painting as well. So no, essentially it's not the end. It wasn't the end for them. Now, tips for helping the person stay positive. So continue everyday tasks and routines to maintain sense of self, right? Essentially, you want to feel like you are being productive, right? So focus on your unique strengths and interests, right? Modifying activities to match your abilities. Certainly, just as Carol mentioned, some changes that they had to make. Volunteering was one of them. Adapting activities over time and plan for rest periods as well. Don't become over-focused on something that you're doing. Concentrate on the process, not the result. Very important as well. Right, next video is from Greg on living on the present.
We were just entering into the empty nest phase when Laura was diagnosed. I'm not sure that we had a plan of a bucket list, as it were, of things we wanted to accomplish during those years. We certainly look forward to having more time together as a couple and doing things that we enjoy. But we got the Alzheimer's diagnosis, and that has become our advocating and raising awareness has become our cause for this period in our lives. We literally take each day as it comes. I tell people our lives work today. Do they work a year from now? I don't know. But they work today. We enjoy today. We do what we want to today. I think that the diagnosis has given us a sense of appreciation for our lives and how wonderful we have had it. I think it also has given us a sense of urgency to do some things that perhaps, at least our tendency is always say, well, we'll do that next year, or we'll do that in a couple of years, or we'll do that when we retire. And now we live what I call the fierce urgency of now. If there's something we want to do, let's do it. And that's one of the messages I try to give to not just caregivers, but friends and family, is that you are not guaranteed tomorrow. If there's something that you want to do it. Don't wait.
Awesome. Very powerful message by Greg and his wife, Laura. It's essentially, live in the present, right? Understanding that life is short, and you have to live each day as it comes. The next message here on this slide is maintaining closeness and intimacy. Now, when you come to the slides, you see intimacy. That it doesn't necessarily mean being intimate in a sexual way. It also means, being able to express your feelings to your to your loved ones, how you're feeling that day, being able to share those emotions, right? Being able to discuss those important issues directly with them as much as you can. So being honest, just because essentially if you're not being honest to that partner, that person cannot perhaps won't be able to take the best care or optimal care as possible for you. So essentially encourage that communication with each other. That's the main message from this slide. So now as a care partner, right, other tips for coping is your role is made easier by asking for and accepting help from others. That resonates with me specifically, because it's my wife, myself, and we have 2 little kids. So oftentimes, we resource to our community here, our neighbors, grandparents, perhaps, when things come up for appointments that we have, healthcare appointments, for example. So certainly don't be shy about accepting help from others. Sharing your feelings, as was mentioned previously. Listening without judging, very important. Communicating that you will be there, showing those feelings of empathy, for sure. Being empathetic to that person. Don't disregard those those words that may indicate that this person is reaching out to you, but you may have read those words by meaning something else. So certainly pay close attention to what that person is communicating to the care partner. Experiencing moments together, as we saw from that previous video. It's very, very important. That makes the other person feel very special and that the person matters. Doing it right now. So, not wait till the end, not wait till tomorrow, certainly, because life can pass you by, certainly. And redefining intimacy. Again, just being able to communicate openly. I know that's hard for some of us to do. I know it's hard for me. Growing up, I was not the most intimate person in communicating with my mom, my dad. But over the years, that has changed, for a number of personal experiences. Communication is very important, as I've learned. Certainly, if I had to choose another or add another major to my college years, I'd probably major in communications, because I think that's that would be very valuable for sure. And I know, sorry, this particular first part series of the three-part presentation, it's coming to an end. But I would like to mention a couple of things. Certainly, the resources that I think Nicolette will share with you. Is that correct, Nicolette? The resources that will be shared either on the chat, or because I don't think we have a slide in particular here.
Yes, so in the chat, I put our 1-800 number and our community resource finder, and those are very helpful if you're looking for resources, support groups, additional education programs. There are some questions in the chat that I'm happy to answer. Judy, I think better answered by you. There is a question about if you are sending out the sessions, can you send out the part 2 and part 3? If someone's attended the first session and they can't attend the other 2, would you be able to send them the additional sessions?
Yes, that's our intention. We're recording the sessions, and then we have to get them to our public relations department, and they will put it on our YouTube channel. And then we send out an email to everybody attending with the link so that they can go back and they can listen. So what I would say is better to register, even though you may be on the fence of whether you can attend or not. Normally we send it out to just the people who attended the session that we recorded. But in this case, being that this is a 3-part, I think we're going to send it out to everybody that registered for any of the programs. But realize it does take a couple of weeks before it goes through the process of our getting the recorded files, submitting the request, and then getting to it, and then getting it onto the YouTube. So it can take up to 2 weeks. I'm going to ask them to put a rush on it. And hopefully, that'll work. I do see that there's a couple other questions in the chat. Nicolette, I don't know if you want to read them and answer them.
Yeah. There's a question about referrals and researching assessments. So I would highly recommend going to that community resource finder or calling our helpline number. So you can always go to your primary physician and they can recommend a neurologist, a geriatrician, a psychiatrist, a doctor that may be more specialized. But if you do not have someone that you are comfortable with, or you'd like some additional resources, referrals, we're happy to provide them for free. We'll mail them, we will email them. We're happy to send them out for anything you may need in Ocean County or nationwide. We provide that service. There is an additional question as well about communicating without judging. So definitely a really good point. As far as a caregiver, we wouldn't want to judge the person that has Alzheimer's or dementia and say, well, they're having trouble with one area, so they must be having trouble with another, or they received a diagnosis, so they can't handle XYZ. Really, everyone is very different in the journey, and we recommend talking to that person and seeing where their needs are and where you can best help. Also, we all want that sense of purpose, and there were various clips of examples of people that found different activities, found volunteerism, found art, different things that really were fulfilling to them. And I think that's very important. We don't want to say, well, again, because I'm having trouble setting the table, that I can't cook at all, or I'm having trouble, managing money, so I can't garden. We don't want to discount someone or judge, their abilities. And there may be some activities that just need some changes. Necessarily, they may need help in a certain area, or it may need to be modified, but we don't want to necessarily take everything away from someone or judge that they can't handle something just because we need to change something, or they need a little help in a certain area. And I think go ahead,
Nicolette, and to everybody here. I just wanted to let you know that I know of 2 organizations in Ocean County that give or were giving respite care for those that were caring for somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia. So we put those 2 links in the chat. That's Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey and the Interfaith Health and Support Services. I can't really speak for, exactly what they're doing now, but that's, the mission or purpose of one of the kinds of activities and support that these 2 organizations give. So the other thing that I want to mention is that I have learned as I become more educated about how important music can be to those with Alzheimer's and dementia. So I'm going to do a little more digging so that I can share a little more in depth with the resources, but the library does have a DVD, and there is a website called Alive Inside. And, this is about playing having your loved one listen to music from their past and their history. It's personalized. They might have been somebody that was really into rock. It might have been somebody that was really into just R&B or classical or church music. So it really seems to be very beneficial for them to be listening to music of their era, their life, or whatever. So again, that's Alive Inside. I know the library does have the DVD, and there is a website. What I don't know now is how you all can get the headphones with the personalized music. So I'm going to work on that because I have a contact at Caregiver Volunteers that this is what they do. So the other thing that I want to say is something that I learned from another training, and you were talking about it, Ron, about sitting, on the couch and the other person's across the room and trying to talk to them that way. And it was brought to my attention that it's very important when you're talking to somebody that has Alzheimer's or dementia that you are in front of them. Sometimes some people, as they really age, they lose that peripheral vision. So being in front of them. And the other thing that impacted me a lot is that it really matters that you're showing, compassion and caring, and that makes a big impact and has a positive effect, sometimes more than the words. So I thought that was very important, that, you make that effort to, get down to their level, be in front of them, and, just be communicating in that very caring way. That's what I wanted to say.
Absolutely. Those are great points. And if there's anything that we can do to help, please feel free to contact us at the Alzheimer's Association. I know the Ocean County Library is amazing and they have so many resources that they can provide. So please feel free to reach out if there's anything either of us can help with. And thanks for joining us today.
Oh, I have one more thing. So the library has also acquired what's called an adult picture book collection. So these are picture books that really don't have any words, but they seem to be very beneficial, and that collection is getting very popular. So it's just a book that has a lot of large pictures. It might be, you know, of a season or a location or flowers or nature or people's faces or babies' faces, or we have a whole range of them. And they're also, people are finding them really beneficial to use them with their loved ones. So that you can call up or go to any branch of the library and ask for, you know, I heard you have adult picture books that are good for people with memory loss. My final announcement. Thank you all very much. I hope you found this beneficial, and we'll see some of you on Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Take care, everybody. I'm glad this was beneficial.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.